Hello and welcome to Center for Victory's podcast of Your Best Day Yet. I'm Eric Guy, Chief Victory Officer here at the Center for Victory, where we're here to unlock, reinforce, and enrich relationships through personal and professional development. Sit back and listen to a previously reported podcast of Your Best Day Yet, backed by popular demand. Hope you enjoy it. With me today is a newbie and hopefully one that you'll be seeing very often, Dr. Marissa Host. Not a doctor yet.
Hello. No, not yet.
Not yet. But let me just tell you, folks, if you've been listening here, and some of you who know me, I'm not only big into the leadership piece and managing people, getting the best out of us, but also the physical piece. My wife and I, who run the company, have been through a lot. The first thing physically was the stroke she had when she was pregnant with our daughter. Happy to say that she's off all those medications after a long process. But then, we were hit again with a couple of the things, me being in 2014, being diagnosed with things like MS and things like that.
Oh, wow.
And then, having come off of that, trying to figure it out kind of on our own and not, that traditional medical model. And so Marissa, who happens to be the wife of a good friend of mine, she's also a good friend, but I met your husband first. And then we went out, I started talking about these things, with all the physical kind of hacks, and I don't want to call them hacks, they're just normal ways of life that I think we should be behaving in. And she got all excited, and I was like, oh my goodness, somebody doesn't think I'm a freak.
I don't think you're a freak.
And then I got to thinking about it. I'm like, well, if she knows this stuff, why not have her on and help her out and have her help out with, some folks' questions around some of these things that we see, that we share a passion over. So hopefully you all will be seeing her more often. She signed on big contract for at least 12 episodes. So hopefully when we see her around, I won't upset her. But Marissa, welcome. I'm glad to have you here. I know you're a couple of decades younger than me, but you seem like you have a lot of knowledge, but it's because of your background and really what you've done. So maybe we could start there and then get into our topic for today. So give people kind of your background. I think it'll make sense of why you're going to be on and multiple times to help folks that we help.
Sure. Yeah. So thanks for having me. My name's Marissa. My background is in the medical field. I have been a nurse for about a decade, doing my own research in pretty much all areas of health. Just super interested in the message that Center for Victory, and, Eric and Tammy, their story is really captivating to me. And so the physical aspect, I'm pretty nerdy when it gets to science, down to the cell itself and all things brain. And I think the human body is incredible. And so whenever you shifted into talking more about the physical aspects of how you and Tammy live your lives and the stories that you've told us are incredible. And I think that people need to hear more about that. And so, yeah, I'm super interested to dive into all of this. Love discussing this stuff. Yeah. And so I'm excited for what's going to come from it.
So you're not just a nurse, you've been a hospice nurse.
Oh yeah. Which is hospice is my passion. I love.
Right. I really have not, in my 30 years of experience, have not met many people who go, I'm passionate about it.
It sounds pretty morbid, doesn't it?
But maybe just start there. What draws you to that? Because it's definitely, from what I've seen, it takes a special kind of person to do this.
What drew me to it is, initially I had an experience with a patient just working on a med surgical floor, and it just drew, it felt good as a nurse. It felt good to do this thing that somehow combined the holistic person, the spiritual aspect of someone dying, and the physical as well. To me, meshing the two is sometimes rare in the medical field. And this is one where I felt like this is spiritual and, medicine, physical health altogether. And so I found that not only was I drawn to it, I felt like I was very good at forming an environment for these people as they were passing. We have these, birth playlists. We have our birth plan. We have who we want in the room, who we don't. Do we want music on? Do we want the TV on? Do we want silence? I saw that happening at the beginning of life, but I wanted to do that toward the end as well, and just support that person, because I frankly, and I hate to be so callous about it, but we are going to die one day, and that can be a good experience or a bad one. And so I found that you really can affect the end of life for somebody and make it a joy sometimes, rather than just you're sick, in pain, struggling. And so I want to make the end of their life the highest quality that I can.
Yeah.
So I love it.
So we're going to nerd out. So
let's nerd out
for those that are just listening. I know you're going to get some information. Those of you that have asked me other questions about this, many people ask me, especially about the physical side, the body. I talk to a lot of leaders who are at the top of their game in their companies, but I mean, diabetes and loss of memory and overweight, they can't exercise, they can't sleep, their relationships stink at home. It's just all those things. And it's unfortunate because it doesn't have to be that way.
Right.
And one of the things you and I started talking about at first, and we'll probably carry on this conversation with other podcasts, is one of the books that we both love is The Biology of Belief. I mean, I read that years and years and years ago. I actually have a copy sitting here. I mean, it's just the cover is different colors because I've carried it around so much, but it meant so much to me, just from the simple fact, like if I could just break down one concept that he said in there that you and I have talked about, is when you look at the cells, in the body, they're much like us. They're much like you. They're much like our families. They're much like our communities, our places of work. And if you think of us as cells, right? You have all these millions of cells in your body, but you are a cell, right? And you can impact the other cells. And what his research was found out that was so life-changing for me and pivotal is because of what I believed. I just didn't have, like, this has been years and years and years ago since I read that book. But when we are under stress or when we're in a lot of fear, our cells constrict, we constrict, therefore our families constrict. Sure. So you and I, when we're both in fear, cellularly, we constrict, and that pulls us into a place of survival, but it also opens us up to more illness, sickness, disease, and disorder. And I'm sure you've seen that. A lot of people. Yes,
absolutely. And this book for me, and we're going to draw many topics from this book and just in general, but it somehow tied together the science of it to what I already believed, but didn't know how to really put into words when it came to the left brain. This is what our cells are doing. To me, it was so revolutionary to tie those two together.
How so for you?
I feel like so many times, I believe that we can change our life through our thoughts and our beliefs. I believe that we can be healed. I've seen it. I've experienced it. I've heard your stories. Even in the past, just amazing things that are miracles. But I also, it was always, they were running parallel to each other, the body, and almost in a way that we see people like fighting against their natural body, when in fact, our beliefs, like we're a holistic being, our beliefs do interfere with our cells. It trickles down to the very, very tiny little cell. Like for us to have changes in our lives, the cell has to have a change in its life. Like I can nerd out about that all the time, but yeah. So just the ability to put those two together, it just makes so much sense to me.
Yeah. And from that the other side of that story, right, is when the cells constrict, more prone to illness, sickness, disease, disorder. And what I didn't say there, and you brought up, was disconnection. When that cell is thriving,
Mhm.
we're more apt to fight off illness,
Mhm.
sickness, disease, disorder, and be connected.
Absolutely.
Right. And again, I think this is where people, we just put so much stress in our lives that we don't give ourselves a chance to
Yeah,
be open.
it's hard. We've all been through things. We've all, I mean, even I again, I relate it back to the simple cell because researchers often look at a cell in order to study the human condition because we're so complex with traumas and we fill our bodies with toxins and caffeine and all these things and expect it to be, amazing. So they look at the cell as kind of the base slate of how we respond to fear, stimulus, love. You talked about being closed off and how that's kind of segregates us. Whereas if we're thriving and we're open and we're healthy, we're attracting other things that are that way. And so changing our thought life and who we're around, our inner circle, and just really changing the medium that we put ourselves in can truly change our life for the better. And I mean, a cell is the product of the medium that it's in, so caring for it, paying attention to what goes in, how that interacts. So it's you truly can change your life through your surroundings, your thought life, what you speak and what you don't. So
Yeah, I think it's interesting that, like, most people, most of us grew up in a place of constriction.
mm-hmm.
And that breeds those stories, that breeds lack, that breeds a poverty mentality,
Mm-hmm.
even if we have money.
Absolutely. Sure. Yeah.
uh, and then we go chasing after more and more and more things, and then we're never happy. And I mean, it's just, you look at some of the, and I've been to some of the poorest countries in the world, and you see these people, it's like, how can you be happy in these circumstances?
Mm-hmm.
They have the essentials, and they have one another. Like,
Exactly.
they have their tribe. And for some of them, I know, have a child. I mean, we started these conversations before you even had a child,
Mm-hmm.
and what that means. And in some of these countries, I've seen it, I've witnessed it, I've read about it, where that child is seen and is treated as a gift.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And people might say, well, we do the same thing here. No, we don't.
They're an inconvenience a lot of times.
Yeah. And then we have them, and then we put them in what I would call extremely dysregulated environments.
Yeah.
I mean, there aren't too many great caregivers or daycares that aren't constricted. And then the stress of COVID that happened made that even more significant. But when you look at that, and you're putting your child in that, and then you're coming home, because we're coming home from jobs, and we're that way too. And then we're wondering why our kids, one, don't bond and don't get connected. But on the other hand, all the issues that we're having, the obesity, the mental health issues with kids, the lack of a good diet because we're just eating garbage. And I'm getting a little bit off track here,
it's all intertwined though.
Yeah. But what do you experience for yourself? So you said you made the connection, but what do you experience for yourself when cellularly you're feeling open?
I would say going through life in a sense of ease. And I know that the word disease, I know that the word disease is often just, they're sick, but dis-ease, you can look at it that way as well. So you're in a state of just unsettled. You're in an unsettled state. And so when you are healthy, you're taking care of your body, you're taking care of your mind and protecting what goes into it, what you're feeding it, and also being very self-aware. It's so important to be self-aware and be honest with yourself and take responsibility for the way you react, the way you were brought up. We all have a past, but we all have a present as well that we need to really care for and be aware of. And so in my life, it just becomes easy in a way, and things just start happening rather than fighting against the daily grind or whatever people call it. It's natural. It's somehow it's almost supernatural. It's you then are able to dream and have these hopes, and they come to fruition because you're not in a closed, tight ball, shutting out relationships, shutting out opportunities. It just, life happens beautifully when we are open to connections and open and healthy. That's how it's affected my life.
Yeah. Now are there, and I'll give an example from me so I can kind of lead you into, so you understand my question here.
Okay.
But, are there certain things that you've done in the past to get yourself in that place? Like, for example, like years and years and years ago, I wanted to be happy. I just didn't know. I didn't have the program for it. And so one of the first things that I did was I actually literally took a 3x5 note card and wrote down on that note card, relationships come easily and quickly. And I didn't believe it, but I needed to set the intention and start looking for those things. And once I started looking for them, I'm not going to say like every relationship after that was great, because some of them really were horrible, but it didn't, having that paradigm shift in just that little note card, right, made a different perspective for me, in all future relationships. Ended up, of course, meeting Tammy after that, because
who was an amazing gem.
Yeah. And, I had to believe it. And then I still struggled after I met her. Is this the right thing? Like, it can't be this easy.
Right.
And I would fight it. And then if I was fighting it, I just would do what came natural to me, which was to fight or argue. Now, there was never anything physical, but I mean, there was some, probably, I don't even know if it was screaming. We just argued. Yeah. But just trusting that it's actually out there and it doesn't need to be difficult. And, because I watch Hallmark movies with her.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'm always like, yeah, here it comes. Here we know,
Yeah.
He's either, who's going to, like, last night we watched one and I was like, well, who do you think is going to overreact this time? The man or the woman in this relationship, and they're going to come back and like, but when you're watching it on the screen, it's so stupid.
It is.
Last night it was like, oh, that was so dumb. But then I look back in my life and I'm like, mine was dumber. Like,
we're very quick to judge and not as quick to assess how we would react in those scenarios.
Yeah. So I don't know. What have you done? Like, are there practical steps that like you could share with people that might be listening or watching to this, that here's a couple things?
Yeah. No, I like, you said in one of your recent, the events that you did, that I think you called somebody out and you said, hey, you recently bought a car. Say it's a Beetle, a VW Beetle or whatever, bug. How often now do you see that car on the road? I loved that analogy because I mean, that's so true. If you're constantly saying I'm sick, I'm depressed, nothing works out for me, you're going to look, even if things are working out for you, your mind is going to be drawn to the things that aren't, and you're going to focus on the negatives. And so I think that setting your intentions, writing, relationships come easily to me, or whatever the wording was you said, you're going to look for that. You're setting your intentions. You are placing your mind on this, even though your life might not be 100% at that moment. You are going to be a better person to, for yourself and others, if you're focusing on relationships are coming naturally and easily to me. You've probably built your network off of that one little postcard. I mean, how has that shaped your entire life? Right. You're incredibly connected with amazing people. And so I think setting your intentions and it doesn't have to be complicated. In your book, again, you said some things are incredibly simple, but incredibly complex. Yeah. This simple ability to just set your intentions, write it. What do you want? Like, what do you want in your life? I want to have relationships that are life-giving. I want to be healthy. I want to have a clear mind when I'm 85 years old. So you're going to be looking for things. How can I take steps to make sure my mind is clear at 85 years old? How can I take steps to cultivate healthy relationships? So I definitely think just the simple, like you said, note card.
Yeah. Doesn't have to be profound.
No, it can be written on a piece of notebook paper, but all and continually keeping that in your mind, not just one time, because you do have to kind of change your thinking, and that's pretty complex.
Yeah.
I mean, we can get into, subconscious, all of that, but it's going to take a little bit of effort, and you have to be willing to take responsibility for who you are and what you've been through, and change from there.
Yeah. And I think what's important, getting back to where we started from, is this has to penetrate at a cellular level. It's just not like positive, hey, thinking. It doesn't happen like that. You have to believe it, figure out, for me, it almost felt like a physical change after a while.
Sure.
Right. It needs to be in the cells. You need to challenge yourself by those little things. And again, I think people think it's so profound, and it's not. We lose out by making it complex.
Exactly.
It just needs to be simple. Change it little bit, till you're actually here. And then, I don't know if you've ever struggled with this, is then to honor that.
Sure. It's not natural.
Well, I laughed when you said about I've built my whole business off of that, and I laughed because of my family and Tammy, that they just laugh when we're places, even when we're on vacation, even when we don't speak the language. I'll attempt to start conversations with people, or we'll just find ourselves in different places. And I know the last trip Tammy and I were on, I think it was Tammy. No, it was my son and I, Josiah and I. We've met all these people that live in Miami, that grew up in Jamaica, and at the end of the excursion that we were on, we had everybody's phone number. We had
that's amazing.
But my thing is, I take it for natural, and then when it does happen, sometimes I think we question. It's like, no, let's go back here. We don't trust it. That's what I was talking about. Trust.
Yeah, I know it's easy to close off, and become that closed person again. You do have to be pretty intentional about remaining open. It like I said, it's not natural, because most people, I would say most people are really closed. I don't know the statistics, but I think you said 13%, and then 87. It takes there's only 13% who are actually open and loving and expressing that ability to connect easily, whereas 87% of us have gone through things, or have a victim mentality, or are just closed and just kind of inward, and wonder why our lives aren't thriving. And so you also said it takes one person to be that open and loving, and this to affect, I forget the number you said, but it was pretty large.
I mean, so that's a good thing to end on, just to encourage people. It's definitely in the cells, so you have to incorporate it, so you believe it at the cellular level. But the challenge then that I would give listeners, watchers, is maybe you are that one person. Maybe you need to be that one person for whoever that is, whether you're a leader at a company, whether you're at home, whether you're in your community, whether it's your brother, sister, mother, father, grandparents. If you're a grandparent doing that for your grandkids, I don't know what that is, but I would challenge listeners to look at it more deeply, because it doesn't need to be these profound things. It just needs to be so that when we get to the end of life, we have those who love us the most around us, and it's a good thing. It's a good cellular thriving thing. So
if a cell can do it, you can do it.
Yeah.
So I mean, cells are pretty incredible, and I don't know how far you want to go into this, but just like people, there are just a few ways. A lot of people blame their past life, how they were raised, some people were abused. That can be so easily changed. Only, I think it's 2 to 5% of people's cells are defected at birth. The physical makeup, you are predispositioned to be replicating these incorrect cells. So this is just how it is. This is how I was raised. This was genetic. My father was abusive, therefore I'm abusive. My mom was angry, so I'm angry. Whereas the other 95 to 98% of people actually don't have anything that ties to their past, like anything that would predispose them to anger. It's all in the way we receive and give, and it can all be changed. In cells, it's trauma. If you break down the 3 ways of giving and receiving signals, and for us, it's perceptions and how we relate to other people. Trauma is something that can affect people's ability to be open. And I mean, we've all experienced our own levels of trauma, and that's a deep topic. The second is chemicals, toxins, things that interfere with your body's ability to receive and give, signals. And then the third is triggering the wrong signal at the wrong time.
Yeah.
And so that you can go into constantly in a level of stress, fight or flight, when we're sitting at our desks, warm, fed, healthy, and our mind thinks we're running from that tiger, and so that wears on our body, and then it doesn't allow the rest of our body to do its job because it's focused on running from this threat that doesn't even exist. It's a threat we are putting on ourselves and our mind. I'm not working hard enough. I'm not going to get paid. I'm not going to meet this deadline. We are putting these things in our mind that are causing our bodies to really suffer, causing ourselves to really stress out, when we need to just be self-aware that this is happening to us, really change our thought process and realize that we are safe. I'm sitting here safe, fed, warm. Our bodies will thank us, because there are so many, the body's more than just run. There's so much that's happening in there that can't happen when you're in a level of stress, and it starts from the cell and works its way up.
Okay. Well, maybe we should just stop there for now, but that was good stuff. Hopefully it's helpful for everybody, but I mean, it definitely is in the cells to think of it in that way. And that's where change is going to occur too. Yeah. So appreciate you being on. Hopefully this won't deter you.
No, back. I'm ready to nerd out more.
Okay. This is great stuff. And I'm really looking forward to it. I hope everybody else is looking forward to it, because this is the stuff that I don't always get to talk about, but it's been real important for me in my life. But it's behind the scenes stuff. These are all the things that we're working with when we're working with individuals, coaching and things like that. So hopefully you've enjoyed this today. Really appreciate you listening, watching. Tune in next time, especially when we have Marissa back here. If you want more information, you can check us out at centerforvictory.com. And just remember, whatever you're doing, wherever you're at, make this your best day yet.